Gemma, and I'm going to work with you today on building a house, which is very exciting. The only thing I wanted to do when I was little was go to art school. That was the only grown-up choice I ever had and decision in my life. So I am a trained artist. I went to Camberwell Art College. I studied metalwork and ceramics. Previously to that, you have to do a foundation course, so you do a bit of everything to see what you want to do next. And then after Camberwell, I went on to do film and television design, so that was a bit like being an architect. And then after that, because I was the endless art student, I went on and did lots of jewellery courses. So my current practice, I do a lot of drawing, a lot of printmaking, and I make a lot of jewellery. And naturally, I don't wear anything I make. It's mostly out of silver, it's mostly out of wax first. There's something called a lost wax process. So I make my jewellery in wax first, and then it's sent off to some very clever people that cast it for me, and then it comes back, and then I make it into a ring. So that's what I really work on at the moment. I also work in Tooting Market. I live in Tooting in South London. I have a shop with a friend, and we run lots and lots of art classes. We wanted it in the market so that it was accessible to as many people as possible. We sell lots of other artists' work there. I also work with another artist in Tooting called Jenny Walker, and we run something called Meet and Make Spaces, and that works very much within the community, so we run lots and lots of creative events. I have always known about the National Archives. I confess I've never unfortunately been into the building, and of course because of lockdown we can't really get in there right now. But I have been working with the National Archives for about almost a year now with a theatre company called Bounce Theatre, and we have run the most incredible projects. It's all been in lockdown, so I'm very well versed to running workshops online now. The National Archives has been incredibly inspirational to me. At the moment I'm running a project called Tooting Tales. We're working with people over the age of 65, and it all came about from a photograph of some boys playing in a big pond on Tooting Common. I think it was probably shot in about the 1930s or 40s, the photograph. And it's created a lot of memories for lots of people. And we're having online Zoom chats with lots of older people at the moment in Tooting. So we're having as best a time as you can in lockdown right now, I admit, because I'm learning lots of new skills. I never run a workshop online before. But I can talk forever, as you know. So I'm going to get going with today's project. So I was sent lots of beautiful drawings from the National Archives, and I chose this one, and this is going to be my inspiration for the work today. It's a plan of number 10 Downing Street. I'm sure you know where and what that is. That's where the Prime Minister lives. When the project was first mentioned to me, I thought I should be building a castle. I thought I should be doing something really huge and massive. And then I suddenly thought, because of lockdown, we're all at home, and actually it's been interesting exploring our house. You might see behind our house isn't the tidiest. I've tried to tidy it up for you guys. But then I thought, because we're all at home at the moment, I thought it'd be really interesting for me anyway, is to make something kind of like a magical house, if that makes sense. So I'm considering that we all have to stay at home at the moment. So I'm going to build lots of rooftops with gardens on top of it, and lots of whizzy shoots that we can have lots of fun with. I have a nearly 3-year-old and a 16-year-old. So they're obviously at different stages in life, but I admit at some point we all do want to have lots of playing time. So I thought I was going to design and then build a big playing house for us. So it's totally up to you what you want to do, of course, with your drawing, and then go on to your building of your house. Everything today is going to be made out of recycled materials. It's difficult in lockdown to get hold of anything, of course it is. Most of the shops are shut. If you're like us, we have had quite a few deliveries, probably more deliveries than you usually had, and they come in cardboard boxes, and that's pretty handy for me because I'm slightly obsessed by cardboard anyway. I'm going to just show you off camera all the materials that I've collected over the last week. There's lots and lots and lots of materials. I probably won't use all of them, but I'm going to have a good go. So artists, of course, do lots of different exciting things. Interesting enough, a friend messaged me last week. She has what I would say a grown-up job, and she suddenly realised she just couldn't play anymore. She was told she couldn't play, and I think it made her feel a bit sad. So I have never suffered from that. People could say other things about me, but I guess as an artist it is all about playing, which is why I love working a lot with children, because they'll be kind to me, let me play with them too, I guess. So I think this project's really about playing and having lots and lots of fun. And as I say, because we're all in lockdown, and even if you see this video after lockdown, it'll be quite good for you to be resourceful with the materials you already have at home. So first thing first, as I said, artists do design buildings, and you as a brilliant artist today are going to do that. So we're going to start by drawing and thinking about how we would like our building to look. And we're going to be governed by the materials. So if I pull out, I've obviously got lots of loo rolls, which I thought would make really good shoots down the edge of the building. I actually got this delivery. And it might sound a bit strange to fall in love with a cardboard box, but that's me for you. I really, really, really like this box. So this is going to be the front of my house. Having said I love cardboard, I actually really like the blackness of it. So I'm going to keep that, I think. And I'm actually going to paint the whole house black. I have been, as I imagine you have, walking around a lot of my local area in lockdown, and I notice I'm drawn to the much darker buildings. Not too far from where I live, there's a building that's painted completely black, and then a bit further down in another street there's a navy blue building, and I really, really, every time I walk past them I'm drawn to them and have to stop and stare, and I think probably the owners think, what's she doing? So as I say, first things first, we're going to draw our building. So I have got a really large piece of paper. If you haven't got a really large piece of paper at home, what you can do is start taping all the pieces of paper you have. I'm of the firm believer the bigger the better. It frees you up and just makes you stop worrying about things. I will also say to you, there's no right or wrong with this. Whatever is in your brain is going to come out onto that paper, and it's going to be amazing. So there's never any mistakes in art. You just keep going on. And in fact, I'll be honest, some of the best things I've ever done are when I immediately went, no, it's not how I wanted. And then I just pushed myself forward, and it's turned into something I've been really happy with. So the other thing we've got, where's it gone? I also got a huge delivery with the most enormous cardboard box. I'm actually going to use that as a piece of paper. So I'm going to do two drawings. One is going to be on white paper. You can just see the edge of it there. And I'm going to use some black ink. And if you haven't got black ink, you can use black paint. And if you haven't got black paint, you can use biro. Another confession, the most favourite thing for me to draw, and I draw a lot, is actually just a biro. It's just brilliant to draw with. And when I run my classes, I don't let people have rubbers, and I think they think I'm very mean. And the reason behind that is just to keep working into things and to stop worrying about what you're doing. So, as I said earlier, I'm going to be governed by materials, and actually architects are too. You imagine if you're an architect and your client says, I want my building, my amazing building, to be designed in concrete. That's obviously going to impact on how the architect designs that building. So we're going to be no different than architects or artist-stroke architects. So all the list of ingredients I use will be attached to this video, but basically it's as many recycled materials as you can possibly find. I'm keeping it really simple. As I said, we have an amazing art shop in Tooting, but it's closed at the moment, so I can't really get hold of any more materials, I imagine, than you can actually. We have got some glue at home, so that's always handy. This probably is a really good strong glue to get hold of. Other makes are available, I'm sure, but that probably is a really good one. I was very excited because the one purchase I have made is I found a sketchbook with black paper. So yeah, as I said already, I'm slightly obsessed by everything black at the moment. Ideally, I'd have loved some white ink, but I couldn't find any. So I got hold of some white chalk. So I'm very excited to start that. I'm going to draw, as I said, two drawings. One's going to be black ink on white paper, and the other one is going to be chalk on black paper. So to carry on, then I've got a pair of scissors, some paint. If you haven't got paint, you can use wax crayons, or you don't obviously you don't have to paint your buildings at all. You can leave them natural, which also look very beautiful. And I've got my son's felt tips and pencils. So I imagine you can possibly match me in that. The only extra thing I've got, which you should be really careful with, is I've got a knife. So I would suggest you get an adult to help you with that if you do need it, but you'll probably be okay just using a pair of scissors, to be totally honest. I think it's because I studied like an architect when I did the film and television. I'm very used to working. You worked a lot with something called foam board, and you cut lots of little pieces out with quite sharp knives. So I'm used to working with very sharp knives, so I will be quite careful on that. But yeah, I'm going to start drawing. So I'm going to get going with my drawing. So I've got my piece of paper. I'm going to move the camera down so you can see what I'm getting up to. So I'm going to quickly show you the drawing again that's inspiring me from the National Archives. Can't tell you why, but it really reminded me of something Japanese, which I'm sure the architect and possibly everybody else would think, how very strange, Gemma, that you think that. There was just something about it that completely drew me to it. I just think it's a very, very beautiful drawing. It's not about recreating this drawing, it's about influence. It's kind of when you look at things as an artist, and I know you know that already, it just inspires you to do things in your own work. So, as I say, big piece of paper. If you haven't got a big piece of paper, tape them together. You can use sellotape, or if you can get hold of masking tape, it's my best secret friend is masking tape. It does lots of magic things. So there's the masking tape. So if you can get hold of some masking tape, if you've got 4 pieces of paper, tape them all together and then obviously flip it over and you can start drawing. I mentioned it reminded me of something Japanese. So I kind of thought I was going to start by wetting the paper. Because if you look at a lot of the Japanese drawings, they do use a lot of ink and they seem to blend in a lot of the work. They do. So if you don't have ink at home, you can use a felt tip. You can still wet your paper. It just gives you really good effects and it frees you up very quickly. So the reason behind drawing before you get going is just because we're going to design so you can be more accurate when you actually get to start building your building. And I say building because obviously it's up to you what you do, so you don't need to do a home. You could do a giant castle. I've got a pipette and I'm literally going to start spreading the ink across. And because I've wet the paper, can you see? I will do a close-up as well. You can see the ink bleeding into the paper and I think it makes a really beautiful effect. So this is going to be the front of my house. And then I have got quite a few plastic containers, which isn't great news because there's too much plastic in the world. But my only defence is that I'm going to reuse them now. So I thought at the top of my building, I would have a balcony. And on the balcony, I'm going to have some trees, which I think would be lovely. Living in a city, obviously you do have access to greenery and you have parks, but I grew up in very rural countryside and I do miss that. So I thought I could have my own rural countryside on top of my city house. My daughter said to me, when you do the project, can you use lots of plastic bags in it? So I'm going to experiment to see how I can use the plastic bags to make trees, which we'll get onto in a moment. So these are going to be my trees. Architects, builders don't like flat roofs because when it rains they're often going to leak. But I'm going to say that we have some amazing building materials and our house is not going to leak. I say our house, my house is not going to leak. I also thought because I work in the arts and because of lockdown and we've looked around at lots of things at the moment, I would like my house to look a bit like a gallery, so like an art gallery, so that if people walk past it, it can make them smile, and it can also look a bit like a picture frame. So I decided I'm going to have quite funny shaped windows in mine. So I'm going to have 2 round ones, which are going to be fun to cut out of cardboard a bit later. And that probably wouldn't leave much light for whoever was living in there. Hopefully that's going to be me. So I'm going to decide in a moment where I'm going to add extra windows. So I'm going to keep wetting the paper. And as I say, I'm doing this because I really like the idea of the ink bleeding into it. I guess it gives it a much more of a softer effect. And as I say, it frees you up. If you've just got pencil, like a normal HB pencil, you'll find that actually if you draw on top of water again, it will soften it. And we'll just do some more exciting things with it. So when you work as an artist, it's also about experimenting a lot. Might sound a bit odd. It's almost like being a chef as well. A chef is always experimenting with ingredients, and you're always experimenting as an artist with different materials. So, as I mentioned, I want some shoots. Maybe we've gone upstairs and we've gone onto our balcony, and we're a bit too lazy to walk down the stairs. So I'm going to have 2 shoots, a bit like, or maybe a fireman's pole, which may sound a bit scary because it's quite a tall building. So I think we'll stop. We'll have 1 shoot there, so you can come off the balcony and drop down here and whiz down there, and then there'll be an entrance into there. So for me to remember that, I'm going to put a line there like a division, so that will be 1 floor of the house. And then I'm just going to scoop some of that ink up. There's quite a lot. And I'm going to have another shoot there. And that's going to come down the side of my house. It's also, obviously at the moment, we are allowed 1 walk a day. And if you're like me, you like to be out a lot. So I thought to get some exercise, maybe one of these shoots could be a staircase, so you really would get fit walking up and down the staircase. I haven't quite decided if my house is going to be isolated or is it going to be on a street. We're going to see in a moment, but whatever happens, I'm going to have a path up to it, because something I thought of which would work really well is to replicate tiles. You could do some collage, so you could do like a mosaic-y collage, which I'll show you a bit later. So I'm going to blend this in. So it's quite, I guess, a basic drawing, but it gives me enough information for me to start building actually. And as architects, they will obviously do initial sketches and then they will do a detailed plan with absolutely everything on, because you imagine someone's got to build from that drawing. So it has to be really accurate with big measurements. But for today, because we are artists designing buildings, we are going to do it more free flow. And as I say, this drawing here gives me enough information, and I hope it gives anyone else that looks at it enough information to know what I was thinking when I wanted to design this building. Obviously, once I get going building it out of the materials, I'm probably going to add a few more features than just this. But that's what I'd like you to do to begin with, is do your drawing. The only reason I say to wet the paper is just to make it a bit more fun and just to make it a bit softer and to free you up as you're doing it. So I've got a big doorway, I've got 2 windows, and I've got a chute, and I've got a balcony on top, and I've got some trees. And now I'm going to do 1 more drawing, just maybe looking inside the house, because this project, obviously today I'm going to have to speed up with it a bit, but you're going to have all the time you want to actually make it so you could make it the interior as well. So I'm just going to do another drawing of the interior. But have fun with your first drawing. I bet it looks really good.